this is going to be the start of me making longer videos. Just know that none of the content will be scripted. None of it will be pre-planned unless I have a knowing that I feel the need to write down, which will be very short. So nothing is ever pre-planned or pre-known what I'm going to say. Everything will just flow through me that I feel needs said. And if I slip on my words, forgive me. But nobody's perfect. And if it's not knowing what I'm going to say, I tend to slip my words. So, but today I feel called to talk about the connection between all of these different religions or beliefs and the truth. Because so many people are on this journey of self-discovery, of finding their self, finding what they feel is missing. And everyone will look for it in different ways, depending on our preconditioning, our preconceived perceptions of life. And so because of those things, we tend to steer a certain way to find that, to discover that. But what I've found with being very diverse and not having my way is the right way, but understanding I like to look at everybody's way and see how it all interlinks. So I've felt the most beautiful presence in churches, and I've also felt the most beautiful presence sitting in circle with women in mediumship. And what I've realized and discovered in being able to see all these different ways of being, all these different ways of connecting to the truth and trying to find the truth, that it all leads from the same place. That all these people, that I feel this absolute power come from them when they've really found that connection to the truth of their self in the heart, you know. And it may be found, if you're in Christianity, through worship of God, and other people may judge people on that, but that is just it's their way of connecting with their truth, and they feel that love in their heart when they're in that environment. And I think it says in the Bible, when two or more people meet, God is present. And that's not just to be said for churches. That's not just to be said for mediumship. It works on all avenues. You know, it works on all avenues when everyone is open their heart to that unconditional love that is felt in the presence of spirit or God. And so everybody thinks that there's a difference and that everyone's experiencing something different. Everyone's experiencing the same thing within a different concept, within a different concept, all different concepts for the same thing. You see, everything's explained in concepts here because it's our way of communicating the concepts. And so we're trying to communicate this overwhelming feeling that we feel in our heart when that is known to us, that presence is here, even though it's always within and around us. It can sometimes feel like God or spirit or the true self isn't around, is missing. You've lost your connection to source or God. Like it can just disappear. And that isn't true. It just can feel like that because we are lost in our mind and lost in our emotions and where we are in life. So sometimes that happens when we are disconnected from the truth of ourselves. Because when we're disconnected from the truth of ourselves, we suffer, and it shows up for us to see it. But sometimes we get so lost in the story of the mind, so lost in the story of the emotion, that we can't see the truth. And when you're in those places of feeling lost, of feeling disconnected from the truth of yourself, from God, whatever way you want to look at that, it can feel like you can never get it back and you don't know the answers there because you can't see clearly from that state of being. You can't see clearly from that state of mind. That state of mind can't find the answers. So if you're on this journey of self-discovery and things keep showing up that make you feel like you've disconnected from source, yourself, or God, know that you haven't. It's an illusion that you have because you've got so identified with the story, and an emotional response is created in that belief. And it takes us away from the truth because we get so sucked into the character that we are within that story. And so we feel the disconnect. That's when we're kind of seeking something outside of ourselves to help bring us back out of it. And that can show up for us if it's needed to bring you back into the knowing that it was always within and around you. You just couldn't feel it because you were lost in a story. And once you let that emotion that shows up from that story move through you, instead of clenching tight and holding on, it will leave you and you'll come back to the truth. And then the truth will be known. And that's as simple as it is for shadow work. If you hear people talk about shadow work and what it really is when these things show up and they disconnect us because of our beliefs, because of our identities, taking us into stories, then we can then alchemize it, as they say. We can use that as something to strip away all the parts that we're not, strip away what's not really the truth. And usually none of it is the truth, because the mind and ego want to create, an identity with all these different things when it's not the truth. The ego is not the truth of what you are. It's the conditioning system. It's the program system. So as much as the shadow self is you, it's your expression in human form. It is a part of the human machine that you have. So the part of the human machine that you have has ways of working, but when the emergency systems are turned on so much, which they are in our life in this world at the minute, everyone's running on stress. Everyone's running on their emergency system. And when we run on the emergency system, it's like you get sucked into the machinery's programming, the machinery's ways of responding to things to keep itself safe. It's only doing what it thinks is best. The machine, as the body and the mind, don't know the difference between what's true and what's not true, because it's got such an identity with the body, because that's what it is. Where when you become self-aware, then you realize that you're not the body, you're not the mind, you're not even the emotions, you're experiencing all. And that's why you can watch multiple voices in your head argue with each other that are yours. You can have one conflicting idea with the other and you'll watch them both. So you'll watch one part of you argue with another part of you with two different belief systems, and you are the one witnessing them both. And when you realize that, then you realize you're not neither of these. You're the one watching. And depending on which one you go to identify with, which one in mind you really lean more towards with a belief, then when you lean more towards one, you'll identify into that story and you'll take that part of you's opinion, that mind, that creation of mind. You've taken that and you've identified with it, and now you're in its story. You could have went with the other one. It depends on what holds true for you in your belief system. And that's how your awareness gets lost in the stories of mind. So if you tend to have this where you don't know what to do, or minds arguing with each other, just start being aware that you're watching the argument and that you don't have to take part in the argument, but simply observe it and observe what parts of you that you've created that are showing up to be revealed in this argument in your mind. And from that, you can start to not get as identified with all of the different thoughts and beliefs that show up. And you'll start leading from the true place of awareness, which knows the truth, which follows its knowing, on the path. And so doesn't need to figure things out by mind, doesn't need to figure things out by working out which way is the best way to go, depending on the argument in your head. Instead, you'll intuitively and internally know what to do, know what the truth is, and just know where to move and how to move forward. And it's learning to trust that. It's learning to fully surrender to that truth of yourself. And that's a big part of it too. Trusting in yourself, trusting in that awareness, and letting the mind relax a little bit. And that comes from practice, which is why so many people meditate. You know, meditation gets us to be able to sit with all these parts of ourselves, not run from them. There's meditations where you may do visuals, or maybe you are trying to quiet the mind. But when you're doing work with, if you're feeling a certain way, even not even if you're doing work with, say you go to meditate and you feel like you can't get in the zone because there's so much emotions going on in you, there's so much showing up, and maybe you're trying to run from it, maybe you're trying to sit in meditation so this feeling's not there. But the reason it's showing up is to be felt, so that it can move through you. And it can only move through you if you stop squeezing and holding and willing it to go away. It won't work. You have to let it move through you and not have fear over feeling this emotion. Don't fear the emotion. It is an emotion and it will pass like a wave if you just relax and let it move through you. And know that once it does, you'll see the truth. And that's the simplest way to work with these emotions and work with the mind that is showing up and causing you some problems. And it's only showing up to be seen. You know, don't fear mind showing up. Don't think you're a failure if mind comes to challenge you, or feelings or emotional responses come to challenge you. It's not that you're failing on this journey. It's that more's coming up to be seen, that's holding you in your old conditioning and away from the true self. And so it's showing up so that it can be felt and released and let go of. And it's that simple to be done. And I know there's a lot of stuff that's talked about now. And I've had experiences, and so many people have had experiences, that there's dark energies in there, like the devil, concept of the devil or the dark force within this reality. Because outside of this reality or in the truth, there is no such opposing force. It's only within this creational reality that these things show up. And a lot of people have a lot of fear because of TV and how all these things work within those programs being given about it. And the truth is that as much as it may or may not exist within these realities, is that the only way anything, whether it be a human or it be an entity or it be the devil, okay, whether it be any of those things or whether it be just your own subconscious mind, the only thing that is going to cause you problems is your identity with things that aren't true. Your conditioning, your programming, your shadow self is the only thing that can ever be used against you. And really, it's only you using it against you, because it's a choice. When things show up, whether you think it's a psychic attack or whatever you may think it is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. Whether it is that or it isn't that, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the devil's after you. Because if he is, and if that is the case, or if it's just your subconscious mind, whatever way you want to look at it, it can only use you against yourself. Because it's all done through mind. It's all done through our emotions. Hell's experienced within our dimensional experience of reality, within our emotions, within our emotional experience and mind experience is where hell's created. And that can only be created through us, through our beliefs on what's happened to us, and so what has been conditioned through those happenings, what we've believed from our experiences. Only those things can be used against you. So really, the only thing that can be used against you is yourself. And you have the power that if anything comes at you, if it be your own subconscious mind, your own shadow, or you believe it to be the devil or demons or entities, it doesn't matter. Because when you realize what you are, when you realize the truth and that you are the awareness, you realize that all that can be seen in mind and it can all be witnessed and that nothing has power over you. Things can only have power over your mind. And once you realize that the mind is just a part of your machinery that is here to help you experience this world, and we've just programmed it a bit wrong, and it's just been conditioned a little bit wrong, then all we need to do is see that it's been us running an autopilot through our machinery of our mind because it feels like the safest thing to do within the computer's virus system. So it's detecting dangers, it's detecting threats from outside, it's detecting everything, and based off its programming, it knows what to watch out for, it knows what viruses, what hackers might attack it. So it's always watching. And as it watches, it's already recorded every experience that was negative. All your experiences have been recorded within your programming, within your mind, within your machine, so that it knows how to keep itself safe, how to function in this reality and survive. And it's only doing its job. But because we respond to things in such a stressful way, the emergency system, which is your fight or flight, turns on. And then through that, your conscious awareness gets lost to the emotional response in the mind because it's trying to keep itself safe. But you're still aware in those moments. You cannot stop the mind in those moments once the body and the mind start to fall into a state of high alert, a state of stress. What's going to happen is your body's going to react emotionally. If something severe that brings up severe emotional responses, then it's going to fill your body and you cannot run from that feeling. You're not going to be able to switch on the awareness and stop it because it's turning on for a reason. It's turning on because there's still a belief and a story in there that needs to be seen. And so it's going to switch on. The mind's going to start running its old thoughts. It's going to start running its old fears and trying to get you prepared so that you're ready for whatever it is you need to do next, depending on what you're responding to. And when this happens, you can still be aware within this. You can't feel all beautiful and peaceful because you're feeling this. You're still able to be aware that this is going on. It's whenever you lost that awareness within it and you start going with the mind and what the mind thinks and getting so sucked into its story, you start to feel so consumed, so lost, creating your own hell. But if that happens and these things go on and you just step aside and watch until it passes, let it be felt until it passes through, then on the other side of that, your awareness of watching with the true eyes is going to be able to show you why that response was there in the first place and how you can let it go, how you can let that fear go in order to free yourself of that false identity that you'd identified with. So I can't remember why I even started talking about that, but yeah, the body is a conduit for us to work through. It's something for us to use to experience this life, as I was saying. And if we just understand it a bit more, understand how it works, and trust and know what we truly are, then it makes things a lot easier. And it doesn't mean that just because you have one experience of God or being one with God or being the one or the truth, whatever experience you've had that's fully awakened you to what you really are, it doesn't mean that from that day and that experience that you are going to be just that now, because you still have to undo all these kinks in the system. And it's not that it's bad or you shouldn't hate the process. It's a part of the journey. It's a part of the self-discovery journey. You're going to have to go through. You cannot jump from here to here and just be done. I mean, I'm sure some people have. I'm sure some people have been blessed to have that one experience and stay there. But for most, it's not like that. And it doesn't mean you're failing. It just means you have more to see. And things are going to show up. And it's okay. It's okay. It's just learning to be aware within it and learning how to then take that awareness and shift from where you were in that story and identity to releasing that belief and releasing that fear and being in the true self and awareness more. And it comes from just trusting and knowing the truth within your heart. And your heart will guide you. And it's not saying that your heart chakra is going to be beaming open all day, every day. It means that the truth is known. Even if you're having a bad day and you feel not great, if that's going on, it doesn't mean you can't be aware of that. As I say again, like the story of the system turning on, it doesn't mean you can't be aware. It doesn't mean you're not good enough or you're failing. Just be aware of this aspect of you and why it's showing up. What have you to see in it? And in seeing that, how would it change your life? Because if you just think about it this way, which is a great way Byron Katie teaches things, if you just question, if you get really lost in things, if you just question, is it true? If you question, is it true, when you start to get lost in a story? And can you absolutely know that it's true? And how do you feel when you believe the thought that this story is true about yourself or someone else? How do you feel when you believe that? And I'm sure you don't feel good if it's something that's showing up and causing you suffering. But when you hold that belief, it's creating your experience of emotion, which then really is your reality. So how would you feel if you drop that thought, if you drop that belief or let go of that fear? How would it feel for you? What would be different? And the truth is, you would be free of the fear, free of the story, free of the false identity, and free to be yourself. So if you just start to really either watch the thoughts, if you can't watch them because you get sucked into them, question them. And you can even turn them around. Say something showing up where you're like, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. And you constantly think this about yourself, which most of us have done. I've done it. We're all working on that one. But if that shows up, it's turning it around. Simple, turn it around. I am worthy, I am good enough. It's how much greater does that feel? And just be aware of that. So there's loads of different ways of looking at that, but it's really that simple. And we're really all trying to come back to the truth of ourselves, whether you call it living through for God or living with yourself as God. We're all trying to live in that unconditional knowing and love and that honest space where we can openly be our true selves. More people are starting to be their true selves and be authentic. And that comes from trusting yourself. Because the more you can trust and love yourself, the more you're happy to be yourself, regardless of what other people think or perceive you as, because that's their experience. And it's none of my business or your business.